Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports. I am your host, Charles Hamaker, as always, here doing a game reaction game recap of this year's Battle of the Sound here in Seattle. Typically, this is well, not typically, but this is a game that the Seattle Thunderbirds will host at Climate Pledge Arena, the grounds where Seattle, Key Arena used to be where the Thunderbirds used to play before they headed down to the Cecil Showa Center down in Kent, back in I believe it was 2009. This year they were playing the Everett Silvertips in this one, and this one obviously, with Everett and Seattle is a highly contested rivalry. There's always a lot of extracurricular activities after the whistle, a lot of physical activity between the two teams. That was no different tonight. The Silvertips win this one by a score of 5-3. You know, outside of, the second period of this game, this was a pretty even game. At least from, my eye test, the first period, Seattle gets the first goal. Um, Hoster Dunn is able to get on the board in this one. Gets the home crowd into it. I say home. Folks were a little upset on the internet when I was saying stuff like home in Seattle because of uh, you know, Everett fans feel a way about that. And, I only say that because Seattle is listed as the home team in this one. Seattle does the hosting for these Battle of the Sound games. If Everett wants to host, then they can pay to do that. So that's why I'm saying it. I'm not doing it at favoritism. Um, but yeah, Costardon gets on the board first for Seattle, gets the home crowd into it. But Everett and their fourth ranked power play in the WHL get on the board to answer this one. Landon DuPont is able to get his shot to go to tie this game up, and the teams go into the first intermission tied up. It was 11 shots to 10 in favor of Seattle after the first 20 minutes. Everett got on that power play. It was a relatively even first period, and for a Seattle team that's young, that's obviously in year two following, you know, the season where they won the WHL championship, went to the Memorial Cup. They loaded their roster with high end players, got rid of all their draft picks. Seattle's 2 years removed from that. They're a very young team. They just made a trade earlier today to send off the rights to Jordan Gustafson to the Lethbridge Hurricanes for a player that did play today, actually. And I'll get um, him here and I'll mention him in a second. Um, but, and I'm going to write about it a bit, but the Thunderbirds and the Silvertips are in two very different, situations, frankly, statuses, how they're playing the states of their team. It's two different states, I guess is the better way to put it. Um, yeah, Hayden Pakala was the player that Seattle acquired via trade with Lethbridge. Um, he played tonight. He got a shot. He got into a fight with Kraken prospect Caden Hamill for Everett. Um, he was in the lineup tonight in the third line that featured Bakaj, Pakala. I could be saying that wrong. I'm sorry. I'll get it right next time. And Parmar. So the three Ps, as pointed out by T-Birds Tidbits on Twitter. Um, you know, Seattle is obviously very young. They've got talent, yes, but they're a team that, shows undisciplined things, inconsistencies that a young team will do. It's really nice to see Radam Radim Murtka, you get Pakala to trade today. Raj, Braden Coots is having a nice year. Sorry, Minio is off with Team Canada right now. Um, but this is a team that's largely pretty young. Um, and does have talent, but like I said, they're very much not the competing team that they were 2 years ago that was stacked with talent. Um, they could have made a better push last year for the playoffs had they been a little healthier with some of their star players. But sometimes you don't get that lucky. And Everett, they're a team that's got some really talented folks who have been with them for a few years. They've brought in a couple names. this year in the last few years, but especially there were some names that contributed, especially in this game. Shea Bush was one who got on the board. Um, where's the other fella? I don't think it was Ryland Pierce. Ryland Pierce scored in this one, but Everett's have exceptional Landon DuPont, so they are a team that's I think they're atop of the West right now, obviously atop the U.S. division. Um, they're gunning for a title. They're going to gun for a title. The WHL posted a bunch of surveys about, best home ice advantage, who they expect to be regular season winners, stuff like that. And Everett was at the top or in the top five of nearly all of them. So they're in two different situations right now. And with all of that being said, this was still a highly entertaining game. It was a competitive game, and had it not been for that stretch of time in the second period where Everett scored four unanswered goals, this is a lot closer of a game, and Seattle, could have taken it really. That first period, I thought Seattle looked better. Um, they generated better chances. Everett had their chances in the first period outside of the power play goal, but nothing, too dangerous against Scott Ratzlaff. It all really came in that second period. And the third, the Thunderbirds got the only power play of the period. They scored the only goal of the period. Amazingly, Everett outshot Seattle in that third, 12-9. Um, but I mean, Seattle held them scoreless in the final frame. They had an opportunity on the power play. Yes, as I mentioned, they weren't able to convert though. Good, but penalty kill. I believe Everett's penalty kill is ranked ninth in the WHL as of today, at least. Was able to take care of business, and you know, Seattle wasn't able to do anything with the empty net, but Everett wasn't able to score the empty net either. So I don't know. It is fascinating to kind of see that even though Seattle is obviously, they've traded away a bunch of their higher end players. I know last year we saw that a little bit more. You see Grayson Souchin leave. You see a bunch of the other players go off, to their respective teams that have drafted them. Jeremy Hansel, obviously a few years ago, Reed Schaefer, Jared Davidson, all that sort of stuff, right? Thomas Milic. Um, and you're left with sort of the young crop that was, on the bench or, on their way um, during that year. They're starring for you now. And again, they're great pieces. Like Braden Coots has been really fun to watch. Scott Ratzlaff made great saves in the third period that prevented this from being a bigger win results wise for Everett. Um, obviously, Sawyer Minio is very talented, and they'll get him back whenever Canada is done in the World Juniors after they lost to Latvia today, shootout. But Minio hasn't been officially added to the roster yet. He's been part of Canada's um, taxi squad of sorts, which is fascinating. You know, uh, it was that second period. I'll talk about that second period. Seattle actually got on the board first in the second period, so they score first in the first. They score first in the second. Our Antonio Martorana, sorry, scored his seventh goal of the year on the power play. It was from the top of the right faceoff circle, just a wrister on goal through traffic. Um, Everett wasn't able to clear it out. Looked like it bounced off a few players and it scored it in to give Seattle their second lead of the game and the last time that they would have a lead as a little over a minute later and less than 2 minutes later, Everett's Ryland Pierce would score to give them the lead. And then it just kind of all came. It was quiet for a bit. We went 10 minutes without a goal, but it was this stretch from the 13 minutes in to 18 minutes in, about a 5 minute window where the Silvertips scored three goals, where Shea Bush, Carter Bear, and Cole Temple all really pulling Everett away. And essentially putting this one away, when you've got that much talent, their goaltenders have been solid this year, really solid in some cases. Um, it's tough to come back in a multi-goal effort, and especially with Seattle, where um, you're making some mistakes, you're making some undisciplined mistakes. Um, you know, and part of it was for Seattle, they could have had chances to clear pucks where the turn eventually turned into Silvertips goals, but they weren't able to do so. Everett was on the hop. They were ready to. They were on the spot. They were in the right place at the right time to take advantage of these pucks that were there. Um, I believe it was Carter Bear's goal, where it was right off a face-off. Caden Hamill sent it on net. Ratzlaff had made a kick save, and Carter Bear was right on the spot. He had gone to the crease, gotten behind Seattle. Seattle, not really proactive in going to the puck, rather reactive, and Carter Bear took advantage of that. Ryland Pierce and Shea Bush's goal, both um, Ryland Pierce, sorry, both getting in behind the Thunderbirds and taking advantage of Seattle not being able to get the puck out of their own zone. Um, it's good teams do that sort of thing. Bad teams aren't able to clear it. And I'm not going to say Seattle's bad, but they're, you know, listening to the radio broadcast. I was at the game, but I did have the radio in me, or I had to listen to Tom Boyning. Um, uh, you know, Tom said that, Coach Matt Odette had mentioned that they'd have stretches of good play, of encouraging play, but they weren't able to sustain them long enough. And that just sounds, again, going back to it, the sort of thing that you'd see from a younger team. So I don't know. I mean, it's not the results you wanted. Um, you've got the chance to avenge it next tomorrow on the first of a back to back against the Silvertips. The next one up in Everett at Angel of the Winds. Um, but I don't know. I mean, it's nice to see Antonio Martirana. Martirana scored twice. He would be, if we're doing player of the game, I'd pick him as player of the game. He went down into the boards. They called Jackson Vaughn for boarding. Marty went down the tunnel. Was able to get back onto the ice as Seattle had Scott Ratzlaff pulled for the extra skater in the final few minutes of the game. Um, you could go Carter Bear. For Everett. Player of the game, I'd do Martirana for Seattle. Carter Bear for Everett. Bear assisted on the first goal of the game. He assisted uh, on their last goal of the game, and he had the game-winning goal in this one as well. So good game for him. Someone asked me it was on Twitter, uh, why Carter Bear didn't get first star of the game in this one. He goes, I know it says that the media in attendance are vote on the 3 stars of the game. I was one of two, maybe three writers, at least recognized um, at this game, and yeah, I didn't get a vote. The 3 stars of the game were Dunn for Seattle, goal and assist, makes sense. Clark Schaefer, I believe he's related to Reed Schaefer, former Thunderbird. I believe that's what I heard. Um, he got an assist, and he assisted on I believe it was the second goal. Clark Schaefer, yeah, on the second goal, the Ryland Pierce goal, and then Matarana got the 3rd star, which I thought was low for a guy who had 2 goals tonight. But yeah, don't know how that is. I didn't get to vote on it, so when you say median attendance, it didn't include me, I guess. But yeah, next game for these two teams is against each other tomorrow at the Angel of the Winds Arena. Get you time here. Do. Sorry, folks. Yeah, 6:05 p.m. Pacific, Seattle at Everett. I'm expecting, obviously, we'll see Grayson Malinowski in goal for the Thunderbirds. While Everett should have, I believe it's Raiden Legal. Is that how I say his name? Raiden Legal. Uh, he's had some great games for them that I've noticed. So that should be an interesting one. Again, Seattle didn't look totally outmatched. It was just that sloppy second period where the Silvertips took advantage. A good team, a talented team took advantage, and they were able to pull away. And that was the difference in this one. It was a good, entertaining game. I always like seeing these Battle of the Sound games. You get them in an NHL barn. For Caden Hamill, at least, who's a Kraken prospect, he's playing in a barn that could be his home barn. later in his career. So I don't know, they're fun, but I wanted to come on and some thoughts out there and talk about this game. So I hope it was somewhat interesting to you. Until I see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make today a great day.